everybody. Welcome to Across State Lines podcast.
I'm Ashley.
And I'm Emily, and it's great to have you guys here today.
Yes, the very first episode. Are you excited?
I'm very excited.
Are you sure?
I am. I just... It's late.
It is late. Before we started hitting record, she was like, you sound a lot more excited than I am, but then again, you're just a lot more excited in general than I ever am.
Yes, Ashley is a lot more excited about everything in life generally than I am.
I'm just hyper.
She is hyper, always hyper. Oh. And I'm more of the go with the flow person.
So I actually, since we're on the topic of introductions, I thought it would be a good idea if instead of doing self-introductions, we introduced each other.
Okay.
What do you think about that?
Oh, geez. Yeah, but you introduced me as a feral cat last time.
You are a feral cat.
Yeah.
But it's okay. You just force love upon you and you take it eventually. So I had a question that I was thinking in the car, and I have a really good answer. So if you need me to go first, so that way you can think of yours, I'll let you.
Okay.
But my question is, if you had to describe me as a color, a very specific color, not just a general one, think like a very, very specific, something you can name. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes. A color.
What color would you say I am?
Well, this is actually very funny that you asked me this because I kind of associate colors with everybody.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
Yes. So everybody in my life kind of has a color. And you are definitely fire engine red.
Really?
Wouldn't think I couldn't do blue for you, couldn't do yellow, green, no. Although you are a very good green person, I could put you in a green category, fire engine red is what automatically pops to my mind every single time.
Why fire engine? It's interesting because a lot of people, I normally do get red, but a lot of people say a muted red, like a maroon or a burgundy.
Maybe because you wear those colors a lot, and that's what people would associate you with. But I think of fire engine red as just hot, ready to go. But it's also passionate at the same time. And almost everything you do in your life is passionate.
Oh, that was really nice.
So that's kind of, how I correlate people with colors. I don't know. It's kind of something I've always done. And it's...
Well, I think I've heard of people associating, is it sounds with colors? Or
sounds with color, pain with color. I do that too sometimes.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that about you. That's interesting. I've heard of it, but I've never really known someone that does that.
I don't really do sound with color too much. It's mostly people. And I guess I don't want to be super spiritualistic, spiritualistic here. Spiritualistic here, but I don't know if it's people's auras or not because I am an empath. So I don't know if that has a lot to do with it.
Well, save that thought because I actually have something later on that I want to talk about that has something kind of to do with spirit. So keep that in the back of your mind and bring that back up later.
Okay.
Yeah, because you'll see. So I was thinking on the way here, and I don't know why, but I associate your color as being a very specific mustard yellow.
I love yellow. That's probably why.
Well, and here's the thing, and don't take what I'm going to say the wrong way. Let me explain it first. Let me get it out.
Oh, geez.
Well, because mustard yellow is one of those colors that it is bright, it's still yellow, but you might not notice it right away. And I don't mean that as in you in general. I mean your personality. It can be very sunshiny and light up a room, but it's one of those that you may overlook at first because it's not right in your face. I think you have a lot more, your personality is a lot more toned down, than mine is, fire engine red.
Yeah.
But it's still bright. It's still sunshiny. It's just one of those that if, you know what I mean? If you're scanning a crowd, you might look over it at first until you really get to hone in on it and see that it is a really bright yellow.
Yeah, I like it.
Good.
I like it a lot. First of all, Yeah. I love the color. Second of all, yellow is my favorite color. And I do not have it in my life a whole lot because not a whole lot of things look good in yellow.
Yeah, well, and yellow is one of those colors that it can be messed up really quickly.
I know what you mean, and I like it.
Yeah. Yeah, you're just, like I said, I know my personality up front is a lot more in your face, and yours can be, but it might not be right off the bat.
I like it. That is me, because I'm usually the person who's sitting in the corner of the parties. I'm usually in the corner to myself.
But if you engage, then you're just a big ray of sunshine.
Yeah, and then until you get to know me.
And then you're dark and gloomy.
Dark and gloomy. And I have this, what would you call it? Dark humor about me that people seem to enjoy for some sick reason. So
yeah. Well, that's us in color form.
No, I liked it. I don't know if it was too sappy for our first episode, but
probably
y'all are gonna have to take it in and embrace it. Sorry.
Should we counteract it?
Bitch. Thank you.
You're a mustard yellow, you bitch.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a couple things lined up for our first episode that Emily and I have been kind of talking about in general, and so we thought it would be a good idea to incorporate it for this first episode.
It's freaky deaky.
It is freaky deaky. So, first off, I would like to tell a story, because Emily and I have been talking recently about spirits and like ghost stories, and Emily's had a lot of freaky deaky stuff happen to her in her life. I haven't really, but I have two very specific paranormal experiences that kind of chill me to the bone to talk about. So the first one, so me and my uncle, for my birthday, we always used to go out and do something. Emily, I don't know if I ever told you this story or not.
It does not sound familiar, so.
Well, the one time we went to somewhere in Maryland, I forget where exactly. It was some like battleground graveyard type thing. I forget which one it was. But anyways, me and my uncle were, looking at the different headstones and everything. And I remember this guy walked up and he had like old-timey type clothes on. Like at the time, I remember they kind of looked tattered and worn. And he was talking to my uncle about, all the history of the gravesite and everything like that. And I remember he was pointing down at this grave that they were at. And I just remember him talking about it. Like he knew the history of this person, like the back of his hand. And the way that it was set up, this graveyard, it was very hilly. So we were at one of the top of the hills. And I remember like they were talking and I was just kind of minding my own business, walking around a little bit. And once they got done talking, I went up to my uncle and I was like, oh, who's that? Because he's one of those people that he knows somewhere everywhere he goes. So I was like, oh, who's that? Like, is that an old friend? Do you know him? And he said, oh, no, just some guy that came up to, give a little bit of insight on what went down here. And I was like, oh, and I remember turning back to say something about him or point something out, and he was gone. Like, he was nowhere to be seen. And like I said, we were at the top of a hill, so we kind of oversaw everything. This man was nowhere to be found. And I'm telling you, he was a spirit of the guy that they were talking about, that they were standing over his grave. I am convinced that that's what happened.
That's really interesting. I can only imagine, though, that this guy, if it's not a spirit, plays pranks on people all the time to make them think that he's a spirit, and whenever they're not paying attention, he just fucking runs and hides.
Maybe.
You know what I mean? Like maybe he has like a secret hole in the ground that he can just hurry up and jump in. He's the
like a whack-a-mole.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, I got him. She's freaked out.
No, it was just so weird. And I wonder if my uncle remembers this, but I remember, like, I turned around and I was like, oh, where did he go? And he's just shrugged it off like, nah, I don't know. Like, he walks quick. I'm like, no, we're at the top of a hill. He's nowhere to be seen.
Right.
I'm convinced it was a spirit. So yeah, it was very strange.
And it's also weird that like you're in front of this particular grave and he seems to know a lot of information about this particular person.
Right.
Yeah, that's a little
That's
strange.
what I'm saying.
That would freak me out a little bit too. And I would be I would
thought so too.
I think I would go looking. I'd be like, "Where are you?" Be like, "Sir." Sir.
Oh no, if you're a spirit, you can stay away. I mean, it would like, nice to meet you, but you can be gone now.
Now, I think I would have to solidify the fact that he was not hiding someplace. I would have to be like, "Sir."
Oh yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I would have to go look behind every nook and cranny and every headstone, make sure this little SOB isn't just like crouching down.
Yeah, it was very strange. This next one Emily does know about, and I wasn't sure if this fell under the category of paranormal or not. She thought it did. Recently, like within the past, I don't know, 6-7 months, I quit a job. And I did not have another job lined up. I was so miserable. I had been thinking about it for close to a year. And I had been applying for jobs, wasn't getting anywhere. And I was so miserable. And I came into work one day and I was so frustrated. And I sat down at my desk. And it literally, it was like somebody leaned over my shoulder and whispered in my ear. But it didn't really sound like that. It was more like an internal monologue in my head, but it felt like the presence of somebody leaning over and whispering in my ear, "Today is the day. You're going to be okay. But it's time to quit your job now." And I did. And I quit my job that very moment, actually. And I said, I'm going to be okay. And within a week, one of the jobs that I had applied to and interviewed for months before called me and offered me a job.
Awesome.
It was, I don't know if it was like a deity, a spirit. I don't know. All I know is that it was so comforting and reassuring. And that was probably the most spiritual experience I've ever had. And it was very, very brief and very quick, but very, very real.
Well, I definitely consider it a like spiritual moment or a paranormal moment. One, because ghosts, first of all, they get a bad rep. They're like chihuahuas or pit bulls, okay? They just get a bad rep. One, not all of them are out to get you. And the ones that are most likely aren't spirits. And we can always touch base on that later. But one, you recently reached out to what you consider is your spirit guide.
Yeah.
So at that moment in time, it could have been your spirit guide letting you know, we've got this, you've got this, let it go.
Oh my God, yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, so that was them like physically reaching out to you because they had no other way at that time to talk to you. And to let
you just gave me chills. I did not even think about that as being a possibility.
Well, you just recently figured out that you have a spirit guide, but that spirit guide's been there your whole life.
Right. Well, so background for everybody listening. I've always been really spiritual. And a couple of years ago, I had bought a pendulum. And I thought it was really cool because it was one of those things, for if you don't know what I'm talking about, it's like a little crystal attached with a chain, and you hold it and you're supposed to say, okay, show me yes. And it will either swing in circles or swing back and forth. And then you say, show me no, and it'll go the opposite. So either circles or back and forth. So when I quit my job, I accidentally left it at work. So I purchased another one. And I told Emily that I believe my great-grandmother is my spirit guide because my sister had one. And we were in the kitchen and we were just kind of messing around, going back and forth, like, is anybody there? It swung yes. And I asked it originally if it was my great grandfather because he was the one that most recently passed away in our lives. And it said no. So I asked it if it was my cousin who passed away when I was very young. And my family always told me that she was going to be looking after me as my guardian angel. So I kind of always held that close to my heart. But it said no. And then I asked if it was our great grandmother. And it swung yes. And my sister was like, well, wait a minute, which one? So I asked if it was my grandfather's mother because my grandmother's mother was deaf. And so we loved her just the same, but there was a language barrier there. We didn't really get to communicate with her the way that we did my grandfather's mother. So I asked if it was my grandfather's mother. It said no. And then I asked if it was my grandmother's, who was my deaf great grandmother. And it said yes. And we were so freaked out. We asked it a couple more questions relating to just her deaf. Oh my God, that was fucked up. I'm going to hell. Let me.
I hate you right now.
Let me try that again. So I asked it a couple questions relating to her death and her relationship with my grandmother, and just asking if, even though there was that language barrier, did she know that we still loved her? And it was just very creepy, the way, not creepy, but just too, it wasn't a coincidence, the way that this thing was spinning. Basically saying like, yeah, I know you love me, and I'm still here. And it was very just kind of freaky. I mean, just too, like I said, it wasn't a coincidence. And so me and my sister put it down and we're like, wow, we weren't expecting that to happen. And so I wound up, when I was at this, I was doing a Reiki session, and I got another pendulum. And this one, when I picked it up, it started swinging immediately, like crazy. And I was like, all right, this pendulum was meant to be mine. And so I was asking it these questions pertaining to my great grandmother, and just asking if she was my spirit guide, because it seemed like every time I picked this pendulum up, she was the one that was coming through to me. And I'm convinced that she is my spirit guide. And so, and we've discovered a spirit guide too.
Yes, but I honestly, since that day, have not reached back out to her.
Well, I still think that yours, it gives me chills because, well, you tell the story of what happened, and then it was just too much to handle at the time.
Honestly, it happened so long ago at this time, I might forget some valid points.
Well, we went to the beach after we got your pendulum.
Yes.
And we decided to go because A, it was a full moon, and B, we read that being with the elements, so like near the water, would help kind of energize everything, like the crystals and stuff.
Yeah, and it was also freezing.
Yeah,
it was,
and windy.
It was absolutely freezing on that beach. So this was the first time I ever dealt with a pendulum or anything. Ashley kind of led me to it. I have never straightforwardly communicated with ghosts and stuff like that, because to me, you open up that door and sometimes it's very hard to close. Growing up where I grew up, you just don't mess with those kinds of things. You leave it alone. You know that they're there and you accept that they're there, but you don't talk to them. And this was the first time that I ever reached out to anything and actually tried to physically communicate with anything. And honestly, I was terrified. I was honestly really terrified.
Really?
Yeah, because I've had so many paranormal instances in my life, and I know,
oh, yeah, I know,
and I know that not all of them were good. So I was more afraid that something that was not necessarily good was going to come out and pretend to be something that it wasn't. And that's where a lot of people who mess with like Ouija boards and stuff like that, that's where they mess up. They think they're talking to a family member that passed away or a friend that passed away, and they're not. For the most part.
And they don't close the portal.
Yeah, they don't open it properly, and they don't close it properly. And they also, like, don't... Some people, they... Especially, like, kids and teenagers who are messing with, like, Ouija boards and stuff like that, they're not reaching out with respect. And respect is a really big thing, because you don't go up to somebody... anybody and start asking them random questions and then like screaming and yelling at them because you're terrified of them. That would be, I mean, some people might, but typically that's
but
not
it's rude.
Yeah, that's not how you communicate with people. Typically, you ask them a question, and when they answer you, you scream.
Well, been there.
So, also not reaching out to these spirits who are using all of their energy that they can, trying to talk to you and not treating them with some type of respect or something like that can also really offend them and can make things, you know, turn for the worse as well. Because if somebody came up to me and asked me stupid questions, or if they came up to me and, you know, and yelled at me because I answered a question, I would probably react, you know, harshly.
So what you're saying is I should stop approaching you the way that I do sometimes.
I mean, if you're asking it, like, I'm talking about like teenagers who are asking like stupid questions like that. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, no. I get what you mean. And that's really interesting that you say that, because I have never really thought of it that way. Like, you have to think, if you are truly believing in spirits and that you're talking to spirits, they were once attached to a body. Like, they are a person, you know, in
some are
theory. Well, right. I mean, that's just what I'm saying. Like, they have lived a past life, basically. So
if they're not if they're not residual, they are people.
Right.
Because your energy can be residual. So if it's an actual, you know, like cognitive responses and a cognitive spirit, they have feelings. They're there. So treating them with respect, just like you're talking to any other person, is what I believe you should do. Some people might do it differently. Some people might, you know, entice to get bad responses.
Right.
Because that's
that's how you get haunted.
Yes. But I did, on that beach that day, believe that I reached out to my spirit guide and talked to a ghost for the first time ever. And I asked very personal questions and ended up getting answers that I had no idea, you know, like I don't even know what to say, because it ended up being, my spirit guide ended up being, or the person who I was communicating with at the time who told me they were my spirit guide, ended up telling me crazy things. You know, and it was somebody who I've never met before.
And this person was?
My dad's grandmother. Or,
right, so your great-grandmother, right?
Yes.
Well, and the crazy part about it that gave me the chills was, what was her name?
Well, I honestly don't know, because I really don't know her name. And that's the horrible part.
No, but your dad told you what it was. Was it Amelia?
Yes, I'm named after her.
Right. Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But you didn't know that at the time.
I had no idea at the time that I was named after her.
She didn't know it until she called her dad to tell him about this experience that she had. And he was like, oh, well, that's really interesting that it was her, even though you never met her, because you're actually named after her. And we were like, what?
Yeah.
It was creepy. Not creepy. I keep saying that word. That's not what I mean. It was just very like...
Well, yeah, I mean...
can't be a coincidence.
You can say creepy because it's not normal. So it's out of the norm. So you would consider it creepy. Most people would. But I mean, that's not necessarily being rude or anything like that. I just come at spirits very differently because I've had so many experiences in my life. I'm just like, you're here, I'm here, cool. Like,
Well, yeah.
I respect you. As long as you respect me, you can stay here. But because I know what to do if I get an attachment.
And that tells you all you need to know about Emily's upbringing. Well, actually, no, that's a good place to open up to. I want to hear about it. I've heard a little bit about your experiences growing up in Louisiana, but I know that you have a story that I've not heard yet, and
Yes.
I would like to hear it.
So first, I kind of wanted to explain the area. I originally grew up right outside of New Orleans, and then after Katrina, we moved up to the North Shore, which is kind of between where we were. It's between New Orleans and Baton Rouge. I'm going to use those two big cities because that's what, when people think of Louisiana, they either think of New Orleans or Baton Rouge. And I'm like, we were pretty much smack dab in the middle. In a little tiny ass town. Like when I tell you tiny, when I first moved there, we had one red light that didn't really work properly. And that's pretty much it as far as landmarks.
So one of those like stereotypical you blink and you miss it type town?
Yes, I actually told people that all the time. Like whenever.
Now, is this the town where your parents' house is currently or no?
Yes, but I'm not stating the name of the town.
No, that's fine. I just want to make sure that I'm
my parents,
for my purpose.
My parents still own the house that I pretty much grew up in. I grew up on a dead-end road in a A-frame house that my dad basically has remodeled at this point. And there was only 2 other houses on our road. And our road is probably like a quarter mile long, and it was just straight pine trees at the time. So you are going down this road that in itself, if you don't know that it's there, it's creepy. Mm-hmm. And then when the house we first moved into was really creepy until we painted it and fixed it up. It was,
and it's still creepy.
it's not as bad as what it used to be, but
ma'am, Kevin and Ryan slept in the same bed because they were afraid to sleep elsewhere when they visited your house.
Yes, that's another story in itself.
That's a whole other story.
So, and this is the house that I've had all my experiences in. I've had some experiences before this house that I can actually remember, but this house is nothing compares. One, and this is another area I want to touch base on, is that all the women in my family are freaky deaky.
You might want to reiterate what you just said.
All the women in my family have some sort of connection to the spirit world, I want to say. We've all had dreams where we've talked to deceased loved ones. I think that the women in my family, our roots run deep into Louisiana, if you know what I mean.
Are you witches?
No.
Are you sure?
I don't know.
Okay.
I wouldn't even I don't consider I don't know. So let's move on.
Okay.
Like my mom, for the most part, we definitely all get attributes from my mom. But my mom, for the most part, she has had dreams where she has literally predicted the future to the T. She has woken up and told us what's going to happen that day.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Yes. And it happens to the T. We've all experienced ghosts. We've all seen ghosts. With me being really into the spiritual world and me being what I call an empath, I can sense ghosts and not really see them. So that's one thing. I can tell that they're there. And sometimes I can tell if they are happy, sad, whatever, that kind of thing. Just like I can sense people's emotions, I can sense past one's emotions. One story I want to explain today is when I got slapped in the face.
Have I heard this story?
I think so. I pretty much tell this story to everybody because it's something that has stuck with me for years, and this probably happened 12 years ago now. So the house that my parents own is 3 stories, and at this time I was on the 2nd story, And my mom and dad slept downstairs on the first floor. So they actually have like, it's what people call like a granny flat or a mother-in-law suite. It's attached to our house. It's like a little tiny house attached to our house. So that's where their bedroom and everything was. So it was summertime, I do believe, because I was not going to school at this time. So I remember being woken up by being slapped in the face. And it felt like a little kid's hand, like somebody just gently tapped me on the cheek. And I kind of woke up thinking, because at this time my sister had she at least had my nephew and my niece, the first two. And I thought my sister must have came over while I'm sleeping, and she must have told the kids to come wake me up. And this is how she told them to wake me up, just messing with. So when I got this little, it felt like a little kid's hand. So when I got slapped in the face, I automatically looked on the side of my bed. Nothing was there. And I was like, okay, they must be on the other side of my bed. So I kind of creep over to the other side of my bed and kind of like jump over the edge, but nobody's there.
Right. Because now it's a game.
Yes. And I was like, okay, so they must be on the other side. So now I've checked the left and the right side of my bed and nobody's there. I'm a little freaked out, but I was like, okay, they've got to be
on the foot of the bed.
They're at the foot of the bed. So I look over at the foot of the bed, jump over the foot of the bed. Nobody's there. Automatically take off running, run down the stairs, run to my mom's room. And as soon as I get in my mom's room, she starts screaming. And I was like, what? What's wrong? She's like, your face. And I was like, I know. And I'm screaming. She's screaming. And finally, we calmed down. And she's like, oh, you must have fell asleep with your makeup on because you got raccoon eyes. I was like, thanks. Because
we're screaming for two totally different reasons.
Yes, I'm screaming thinking that half my face must be melting off. Because somebody just bitch slapped me awake. And you're screaming because you think that for some reason, screaming at me because I forgot to take my makeup off, like screaming bloody murder, is a good reaction.
Oh, that's funny.
But I cannot tell you, like, when you're on a roller coaster and your heart drops, that heart drop moment, that's what I felt whenever I looked over the other side of the bed and nobody was there. Because I knew then nobody was going to be at the foot of the bed.
Oh, God. Well, and so you've told me before, you think there's two spirits in your parents' house?
I think there's at least one of a little kid. And one of an older man, an older gentleman, yes.
But you think that the older man is, what did you say, abusive to the little
I don't
kid,
want to say abusive, but I feel like bosses him around. Or
so like maybe like an old-timey father type figure?
Don't get that they're related.
He's just a grumpy old spirit.
Two different timelines is what I get from them. The kid is way back in the day. Like shorts, like when I can see him in my head. I've never seen him in person. I see a little boy, shorts and like the whole like suspenders type thing, and little button-up shirt and little like knee-high socks. And the older gentleman that I can physically see in my head to this day, he is bigger. He's a bigger guy, like beer belly, and he's like bald on the top of his head, but has the hair like over his ears, like typical grandpa style. He has on not like dress pants, but
like khaki,
kind of. They're not jeans, they're not dress pants. It's what older people, I guess, used to wear for comfort. Okay. And belt and a wife beater tank top.
So, I mean, you don't think he's abusive, just grumpy? Well,
I definitely feel like he keeps this little kid in a certain area of the house and tells him to stay there. And that this older guy has the first floor and this little kid is on the second and third.
That's interesting. And is this the one that you said threw pillows at your mom?
I don't know who threw pillows at my mom. I definitely feel like the little kid plays a lot of practical jokes on us, like slapping me in the face to wake me up.
Right. Now, the most creepy story that you've told me that gave me, oh my God, it gave me goosebumps. The radio story.
Yeah. You want me to tell that story now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
At the time, my dad was off working, so he wasn't at the house at the time. I don't know where he was, but he wasn't living with us at the time. He was just out doing a job. My mom and me went to go see the movie Insidious. As most of you know, that movie has a lot of jump scares. And in that movie, you have the ghost talks through the baby monitor. So, and like yells at the woman. So me and my mom were terrified.
Yeah, you're right, as it is.
We were terrified of that movie. We get home, me and my mom cuddle in bed. Like I was terrified. Right.
You were scared.
I was scared. I just kind of hang out in my mom's room for a little bit, for probably like 30 minutes or so. And I was like, all right, I'm just going to kick it. I'm going to go to bed. At the time, I lived on the 3rd floor, which in itself was really creepy in this house. Still to this day, I do not like being up there. I do not. It gives me such a bad feeling. And I lived up there for a while. So I went to go up the first set of stairs, and I could hear a radio playing.
That you did not have on previously.
No, I did not have it on. It's not set on an alarm or anything. I never had it on as an alarm. I always listened to CDs on this radio, first of all. This was static radio playing. Like people talking, radio, like music playing. And I was like, nope. Not today.
No.
Not today. So I ended up going up the first flight of stairs. And to get to the 3rd floor, you have to go open another door that leads you to a hallway that goes to the 3rd floor. I got to that door and could definitely tell there was a radio on. Ran back downstairs, ran to my mom. I slept with my mom that night. I told her what happened. She's like, oh yeah, we locked her bedroom door because we were so terrified.
Like that's going to keep the spirits out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like also what like automatically comes to your mind is that somebody's in your house too. Like you like,
right.
You know, we live in the middle of the woods. And
yeah. Well, and when something like that happens, I think your brain tries to make sense of it too, and the only way that it knows how.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You try to rationalize it.
Yeah.
So I slept with my mom that night. No shame in my game. I will still sleep with my mom to this day if that kind of shit happens. Not happening.
I don't blame you. I'll sleep with your mom if that shit happens.
We were the only two in this house at the time. And the next morning woke up, sun's out. I can now face my fears because the sun's out.
And that makes everything better.
It makes everything automatically better. Open up the hallway door to the 3rd floor. Get to the 3rd floor. Went to go to my radio. I was like, I'm throwing this bitch away. I no longer want it. It's not even plugged into the wall.
Ugh. Oh, God, I just got goosebumps. Oh, I hate that story. Oh, it freaks me out.
It's not even plugged into the wall, and that's when I was done. I moved that radio out of my bedroom. It lived in my bathroom for a while, but I did not keep it in my bedroom after that.
No, that.
Another thing with the 3rd floor, kind of going into another topic that we want to hit today, is a little bit of sleep paralysis.
Yeah, well, and it's interesting too because you said Insidious. And in that movie, it's all kind of about dreams. Well, not dreams, but
it's
just
about
the dream
astral
world.
projecting.
Yeah, which also ties back to the pendulum thing because remember when we were on the beach and you kind of told me, well, do you know if the person who's coming through to you has actually passed away? I'm like, what do you mean? Like, who else would it be? And you said that it could be somebody possibly dreaming and coming to me?
Yes.
Yeah, can you, because I understand what you meant, but I think you know more about it than I do.
Well, especially if somebody, if you're astral projecting, you're essentially your soul, your spirit is no longer in your body and it's traveling, which is really dangerous in itself. And if you do astral project, you have to be really careful and know how to pull yourself back in. So if you ever had dreams where you're looking down at your body. You're not dead in your dream, but you're looking down at your body sleeping. You're astral projecting.
Oh, that's creepy.
Yeah, and Insidious makes it really creepy because the whole point about Insidious is that this little boy essentially went to a coma, astral projects, and that all these ghosts and spirits want his body, and it makes it really creepy. Yes, this is something that I believe is capable of happening, but I think that you would see this, and not everybody is well anchored to their body. Like, you can lose your body while you're astral projecting, especially if you start traveling, you start walking away from your body, you go to different areas, blah, blah, blah.
Well, and when I was looking into it a little bit more, I read this thing saying that basically they described it like, basically imagine this big, long, invisible string that is attaching your soul to your body. And if you're astral projecting and somebody were to cut that string off, you lose your way back to your body. Some sites that I've looked up said that doesn't happen. Some say that it does. So I've never astral projected, so I don't know.
I absolutely believe that would happen, or could happen.
Yeah.
Because I believe in spirits, and I believe that there are positive and negative spirits out there, and I believe there are things that were never human.
Well, and then you said something that freaks me out. That made me want to never astral project ever again. And actually kind of sent me into an existential crisis for a little bit.
Oh God, I'm so
if I
sorry.
think about it too much No, because you told me that, like, if your spirit wanders away from your body and you go back into it and something else has occupied it, that's creepy to think about. Because, so you're telling me that there's people walking around that maybe don't have the right soul in its body?
Yeah, it's entirely possible.
Yeah, no, that freaks me out. I can't think about that too much. I choose to ignore that, because that, if I think about it too hard, I'm going to question everybody around me. Yeah, I'm gonna be like, you're not really you. Like, my Emily astral projected, and you're some demon. Like,
No, I definitely think that you'd be able to. That, you now have a totally different person in that body. That person's going to completely change. That's why, like, when some people get in, like, car accidents or something and they come back as a totally different person, I question that stuff. Like, people who
another soul took over their
people
body?
who have, like, died in car accidents, was resuscitated, and now they're, like, a totally different person. Yep. I read about a serial killer who, young in life, got into an accident, totally changed his personality, and became a serial killer.
So you're saying you don't think that person was a serial killer to begin? Like, you think the soul of a serial killer entered this body?
No, it's just a theory.
Right. Yeah, no, that freaks me out.
It's entirely possible also. I mean, like, brain injuries can explain all of this.
Yeah.
But it's just something to think about. It's a theory. This is all a theory, people.
So, have you had any experiences with astral projection or sleep paralysis or anything like that?
Yes, indeed.
Okay.
So, speaking of the third floor of my house, it gives me really bad juju feelings. That is where I first experienced sleep paralysis in a form. So,
okay.
I was living on the third floor, and our third floor, you literally just walk up a set of stairs, and you're automatically on the third floor. There's no hallway, no nothing, no door. It's just upstairs, boom, floor. You're there. And right at the top of the stairs on the right side, my dad built a wall and put a door there so we could have attic space and storage. And then the whole left side of the room faced the front of the house and was nice and pretty and bright. So,
was that your room?
Yes, that was my room at this point in time.
Okay.
So my bed was directly in front of the windows in the front of the house, and it was essentially right in front of the door to the attic portion of our house that my dad built, the storage area. Now, the people who had our house before clearly had, like, some type of fire on the third floor. So the attic area, if you open it up, the walls are like black from like smoke. And you can see like people's handprints, and it's really creepy.
Oh my god! Like for him, like trying to get out of the fire?
No. I
Or
just think it was
times
like
past?
I just think like the people had like a small fire or something on the third floor or something at some time, and there was handprints all over that room whenever we first moved there.
Okay. Well, when you said that, it made it sound like there was a fire and there were handprints of them like trying to get out, just like straight down the wall of them.
No,
dying
I
or
think it
something.
was just like the people who lived there messed with it to make it look creepy. And
okay.
and at the very back of the attic is this big farmhouse type fan that in itself is kind of creepy. And
Right? Why is it there?
well, it literally, like, if you turn it on, it circulates air throughout the entire house. Like,
okay.
it's built into the wall. It's this huge farmhouse, barn style fan. Like, you turn it on and it circulates air.
Yeah.
So it's this huge ass fan that when you first turn it on, it's like super squeaky. It's like, ear, and then like cuts on.
Oh god, that's creepy.
Yeah, so this is all in the back of the attic, and this is all my door. Well, the door to the attic is right at the top of the stairs, and my bed is across the room, but still like right in front of the door, if that makes sense. So I am across the room, but the door is still in front of my bed, just across the room.
Just direct path to it.
Yes, and in my dream, I do believe that I was dreaming at this time. I woke up in my dream, which I hate that. I hate when you wake up in your dream and you're still dreaming. So I woke up in my dream because I heard the door handle to the attic slip open.
But you're still dreaming.
Yes. Like the latch undo. It was just a turning doorknob. So the doorknob turned and unlatched and was now cracked open. Like that's what I woke up to in my dream. And I knew in my dream that something bad was getting ready to come out of that room. And I couldn't move. So hands in my dream came out underneath my bed and held me held me down, like hundreds of hands. Like that's what it looked like.
Oh no.
Yeah, so held me down, and I couldn't even look at the door because something was holding my head down. So I was looking at the ceiling. And, you know, like in like the old timey Southern like cowboy movies where they have like the spurs on the back of their boots and they clink every time they walk.
Yeah.
This is what I'm hearing. So I'm hearing step, clink, step, clink, step, clink, all the way to
Getting closer to you?
getting closer to me.
Ugh.
Walking really, really slow. And I knew that as soon as this thing got to the side of my bed, something bad was going to go down. Like I'm going to see it, and that's going to be like the end of my life. I couldn't see it. I was trying to keep my eyes closed, but these things holding me down wouldn't let me. And I heard it walk up to the side of my bed, and right when I got to the side of my bed, I woke up in real life.
Oh no.
And I was done with the third floor. I think I moved back down to the second floor after that.
I would have done the same thing. I've only ever had that happen to me once in my life where I woke up like a dream inside a dream inside a dream.
Yep.
I thought that only happened in movies. I had never experienced it. Did I tell you about mine?
I think you have told me about it.
Well, I'm going to tell you again.
It's okay.
I was in my bed, and the way that my bed was set up was as soon as you came in my door, my bed was immediately to the right, and it was up against, so it was like up against the wall. So really the only way to get out of the bed was either on the one side or at the foot.
Mm-hmm.
So I was laying there, and I'm dreaming, but I woke up in my dream. So, but I didn't know that. I did not know at the time that I was still dreaming. And so I get up, and there was a bright light, and it was very weird because everything was exact. Like, there was nothing indicating that I was still dreaming. So I get up, I'm like, what is this bright light in the hallway? And it was weird because there was this like chandelier in the bathroom that was right across the hall from my bedroom. And it was one of those things that, like, it was weird, but it wasn't, like, so out there that I knew I was dreaming. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's where, like, why did mom and dad get a chandelier for the bathroom? Huh. So I go and I'm walking out the hallway, and then I'm in the living room, and I see that the front door is open. And we had, I think at the time, we had a screen door, if I'm not mistaken. So it's dark out. It's like midnight, you know, like I just woke up in the middle of the night. And I'm like, that's really weird. Why is the door open? And then all of a sudden it opens, the screen door, and my grandfather comes running in with a knife.
Oh.
And yeah. And so, I mean, that's terrifying that my grandfather's trying to kill me. So I ran across the living room, and you've been at my house. It's it's like the living room, and there's the family room that's attached to it. I'm running into the family room, and that is when I like woke back up, but I'm still dreaming. And the same thing happens. Yeah. And I see the light, and I'm like, whoa, weird. What's happening? So I get up. I see the light. I see the chandelier. That's weird. Go down the hallway. Why is the front door open? Oh, here comes Pop-Pop just with a knife.
Here comes Pop-Pop.
Yeah, so it happens again. So I run into the family room, and then boom, I wake up again. This time I know, I'm like, oh my God, I am dreaming. What is going on? So I run through the steps again. And then the next time because it was like, you know how in movies, like when it's a dream and dream, when they wake up, they kind of do that dramatic, like pop up in bed.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I was doing. But this time, once I realized that I was dreaming, I had to force myself to physically get my body up. And I still wasn't quite sure if I was still dreaming or not. And I had to, like, my legs were dead weight. I couldn't move. I was paralyzed from like the waist down. So I literally had to lift my leg up, drape it over my bed, take the other leg, drape it over my bed, and slowly stand up. And I had to fully like get feeling back in my legs, wake myself up, walk out to the kitchen, have a glass of water. I think I may have like ate something, and I stayed awake for like an hour. I'm like, I need to make sure I'm up, because if I go back to bed, this cycle is going to keep happening.
Yeah, that's kind of terrifying.
It was horrifying. And like, of all the people trying to kill me, my grandfather, Pop-Up. Like, it was really scary.
Yeah. I have thankfully never really had a dream like that where like I just keep waking up and waking up. My dad has multiple times, and I've just had dreams repetitively.
Yeah.
Like I'll have the same dream over and over and over again.
That's the only time that's ever happened in my life, and I really hope it never happens again, because the scariest part was not being able to wake myself up. Like, me recognizing, oh my God, I'm in a dream, and not being able to get out of it. That was horrifying.
Yeah, not that Pop is trying to kill you, but that you're sleeping and you can't get out of it.
And I'll tell you, I had a little bit of a grudge against him for a little bit, like in real life. I'm like,
you asshole,
you try to kill me.
You try to stab me the other night.
Right, like that was a real ass move. Yeah, no, it took me a while, because, and then, well, and here's another thing too that I've told you before. I have a theory that dreams are really just parallel universes. Just recently, I've really kind of come to this conclusion that, and see, this links back to the whole spirit thing. Like, do you have multiple spirits? Like, is it just one? And like, where do we intersect between these parallel universes?
Well, if they're parallel universes, they're never going to intersect.
But yeah, but like, what am I trying to say? Like, when you're dreaming, right? Where is it your soul that's going elsewhere? Is it your mind that's going elsewhere? Like, I don't know. But I think that maybe not every dream ever, like maybe some of it's just like literally your thoughts. But I really do think that sometimes in dreams, we enter some weird parallel universe.
You know, like the anthill theory,
No.
There's, I guess there's multiple anthill theories, but one that we're just like some kid's science project sitting on a shelf.
Oh, yeah, no, that's freaky.
I always think of like the light at the end of the tunnel that we see is just us being reborn again. Or
So are you saying we're just a memory?
no.
Oh, what are you trying to say?
Okay, so some people say the light at the end of the tunnel when you die is just you being born again. Like this is reincarnation, I'm trying to say.
Oh, okay.
So, but my theory is we are all in some type of like AI type scenario.
Mm-hmm.
And we are being studied. And I think that the light at the end of the tunnel is us failing our experiment of whatever we're supposed to do in life. I think this is why people feel like there's a reason why I'm here. Mm-hmm. There's a reason for me to be on this planet, and there's a goal for me to reach, but I don't know what it is. Mm-hmm. I feel like the light at the end of the tunnel is you waking up on like an examination table and being like, they failed, send them back under.
Oh my God, I don't like that at all. Now, is this just one of those theories that like you dabble in, or is this something that you actually really truly believe?
This is something that I've just thought about, and I've thought about it for years. Like I remember sitting in my kitchen with my old friend Nikki. Hi, Nikki, if you're out there. And this is something that me and her talked about like constantly, like all the time. And this is something I think of. Like,
damn it, we failed the test again. Like put us back under.
Like they failed, send them back under, and then you are reborn again in this artificial world.
Oh, you mean kind of like Divergent? You know what I'm talking about? In the movie, and they had to enter this like stimulation to do the test or
the
whatever.
fears.
What thing there? Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Something like that.
Right. Speaking of theories, have you heard of the egg theory?
No. All I can think of is an egg. So.
No. Well, it's called the egg. Well, is it called the egg theory or... No, I'm sorry. I lied. It's just the egg. And actually, it's by Andy Weir. Isn't that the guy that wrote The Martian? Weir?
Yes.
It is. Oh, okay. I didn't realize this at the time. I found this years ago. So maybe this is just like a short story, but I guess it's kind of a theory in a way. So basically, I'm just going to give you the rundown of it. I have pulled up on my phone right now. Basically, this egg theory is insinuating that it starts off and this person dies, and at the end of his life, his spirit is greeted by God. And he's like, okay, well, what happens now? And he's saying, you're gonna get reborn. And he goes, well, what's the point? When I get reborn, I'll just be a blank slate, right? So all my experiences and everything that I did in this life won't matter. And God says, not so. And he's like, well, how's that? And it goes on to say, basically, this theory is that I am you, you are me, and we are everyone in the world.
That's creepy.
It's very creepy. And let me see if I can read you this little thing that it says here. So the guy says, but wait, if I get reincarnated to other places in time, I could have interacted with myself at some point. God says, sure, it happens all the time. And with both lives only aware of their own lifespan, you don't even know that it's happening. So what's the point of it all? And he says, the meaning of life, the reason I made this whole universe is for you to mature. You mean mankind? You want us to mature? No, just you. I made this whole universe for you. With each new life, you grow and mature and become a larger and greater intellect. Just me, what about everyone else? There is no one else. In this universe, there's just you and me. But all the people on Earth, all you, different incarnations of you. Wait, I'm everyone? Now you're getting it. I'm every human who's ever lived, or whoever will live, yes. I'm Abraham Lincoln, and you're John Wilkes Booth, too. I'm Hitler, and you're the millions he killed. I'm Jesus, and you're everyone who followed him. Isn't that crazy to think about?
That hurts my head.
I know. And it messed me up for a long time to think that you're really the only person here. And everyone around you is just every possible version of you.
Oh, so God just made me with split personalities tenfold.
Yeah, pretty much. Oh, well, and the reason that's called the egg theory at the bottom, it says, so the whole universe, it's just an egg. And now it's time for you to move on to your next life. And I sent you on your way. So just basically a big reincarnation theory that you are everyone who's ever lived and whoever will live.
So you are everyone and everyone is you. So you're interacting with all of your past selves.
All different versions. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't want to live that much.
Well, hey, some other version of you might want to.
Oh, well, good for them.
Yeah, it's not me, but good for the one that's out there.
Good for you. Right now, I couldn't imagine living like 7 billion trillion, like, I don't think it's trillion, but 7 billion other lives.
But here's another theory too. Not really theory, but is time real? You know what I'm saying?
Okay, so I don't even get me started on this topic because I just recently had to do a project on space for my liberal arts class.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah.
And one of my questions, so you had to say, what would you took the class too. What am I trying to say?
Yeah, but I didn't do mine on space exploration.
I know, but you had the same project as me. You had to do the whole slide where you had to say questions or come up with questions you would further explore. Further exploration. Whoo! That took way too much brain power. Mine was like, does time exist in space?
Does time exist, period?
Well, we're essentially in space.
Nah, I guess you're not wrong.
Thank you. Agree to disagree. Like, nah, she sounds accurate. We'll give it to her. And this messed me up because I went on a tangent like to my professor.
Oh Lord, your poor professor.
And I was like, does time exist? Are we simultaneously living in the past, present, and future?
Right. Well, also, it is one of those constructs that, like, do animals go off of time? Like, what am I trying to say? Like,
well, they had like 1 year is like 7 dog years, right?
Yeah.
So that right there, time is different. But you are talking about
the perception.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, and it's so in my mind, everything has a stop and everything has an end. And I don't know if that's something that's just like the concept of no time is just something that my brain cannot understand in this reality that we're living. Because I remember when I was little, I was raised Catholic. And I remember asking my mom one time, like, when did God get here? Like, when did this start? And I remember her saying, oh, he's always been there. I'm like, okay, but like, define always. She's like, always. Infinity.
Always.
Like, what do you...
Thanks,
yeah,
Mom.
like, what do you mean? Yeah, right. Yeah, right. I'm like, what do you mean infinity? Like, that's not... It has to have a starting point. What do you like? Was it the Big Bang? Was it, you know what I mean? Like, what started it? She was like, always. I'm like, no. Like I cannot wrap my brain around the fact that maybe there wasn't a start.
It just was.
It just what? But yeah, but like, I don't know. Like I said, I think in this reality, maybe there's like so much more that we don't know that we just can't wrap our mind around. But like, it's very hard to me to think maybe
this also
it just always was.
Brings it kind of back around to what I was saying earlier about like the anthill effect. I don't know where I heard this. I heard this years ago and it stuck with me about like Earth, our universe, like we're in the Milky Way, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And we have no idea what's out there, but because we have no idea what's out there, we automatically assume that we're the only intelligent beings.
Oh, I definitely don't believe that. I believe in aliens 110%.
Yes, so do I. So, but some people, they don't think that aliens exist. Okay, kudos. Whatever.
Right.
But anthill theory is that you can take an anthill that's in the middle of the forest who's never seen another anthill, and they'll think the same thing. But we, like, obviously there's going to be other ants in the forest or whatever.
Well, like, I get what you're trying to say. Like, when I think of aliens, I don't necessarily think of, like, little green people coming down in their spaceship to Earth. I believe there's other forms of life out there, other intelligent forms of life out there. And honestly, the space itself is probably, again, like, where does it start and where does it end? Does it?
No.
Or is it just infinity?
It keeps going.
Yeah. And, like, that's, I can't wrap my brain around the fact that it just goes on forever. Like, in my mind, it has to have a start and it has to have a stop. And the fact that it might not, I can't comprehend it. Listen, next week we'll be on conspiracy theories. How about that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, we've already talked and tangented. Tangent?
We tangentied.
Sure. For quite a while now. So,
yeah.
Do you want to sign off?
Okay, everybody. I am going to research this anthill theory and come back with y'all like full force with it because I believe that there's a lot to go into it and a lot that we can talk to about it. So enough with it for now and enough with the paranormal stuff for this, podcast for today. And next week we'll go into more of the conspiracy theories, which seems the direction that we're going with it this time. And I've told...
Yes, which is not the direction that we intentionally were going, but it's where we ended up. So...
thank you guys very much for listening today and supporting us thus far. And we hope you have a great week.
Thank you guys.
Bye.